Has anyone ever been to a wedding where someone actually objected, and if so, how did that go? Went to a wedding where they skipped that part because the bride's adult daughter was planning to object. My auntie's fiancé was already married. Lady stood up waving marriage cert. So wedding didn't go ahead. The reception was on a long boat, so we still went to that. The fiancé went back to home country to sort it out and never came back. This was in America. And the wedding was in a Buddhist temple. Parents of the groom stood up and objected because they didn't believe the bride was of the same class. They spoke in another language, so most of the English-speaking guests didn't know they were objecting. My husband was the best man and those closest to the couple knew this might happen. The Buddhist priest said he would handle it if the parents tried anything. After the parents spoke for a while, the priest said to the groom, "You've heard what your parents had to say. What do you want to do?" The groom replied, "I want to marry my bride." So the priest asked the parents to leave. At this point, the rest of the guests are cluing in that this was not a nice part of the ceremony, and that the parents were actually objecting. So, as the parents walked out, some of the guests were berating them, saying things like, "You should be ashamed of yourself," and, "How could you do that?" And even though the groom was not happy with his parents, that was very hard for him to hear. That was 30 years ago. The couple is still married. They have 2 beautiful, successful children. After the groom's mom passed away, the groom's father came around and was involved in their lives until he died. At his rehearsal dinner, a coworker's mother toast included that his soon-to-be wife was a damn dirty whore who wasn't good enough for her son. Folks not happy. Video ended, so didn't see the whole thing. At wedding which I attended, his mom started to say something at the "speak now" part but was silenced by her daughter. Mom left and didn't see the rest of the ceremony. Everything about that poor guy was drama. I went to a wedding where the best man was replaced a week before because he banged the bride. But the wedding still went ahead, just with a different best man. They are divorced now. A woman, in her 20s at the time, objected to her mom marrying my uncle. So she started yelling, "Mom, don't marry him." During the ceremony proceeded and some family on the mom's side lead the daughter away to quit interrupting. I don't blame her, my uncle was a lying, lazy bastard. The marriage didn't last. What is the best response to, "What the fuck is your problem?" Like right now or just in general? How much time do you have? Take a deep breath. Thank them for their concern and actually start talking about your problems. All of them. Think of it like free therapy. If they try to flee from you, don't worry, they're just trying to help you with some added exercise. Therapy. Just give chase and continue to shout your problems at them until you have them cornered and finish. Or you feel better. Thank them again and go about your day as the happier, less burdened individual. I had 2 coworkers do this to me today. I responded with, "At the moment you too." I knew an older guy from Ghana who would always reply with, "My problem is you," in his thick Ghanaian accent. He was an orphan child and made a life for himself in the UK. Worked security every day till he passed away a few weeks ago, aged close to 80. Rip Kofi. How much do you want to know? Then have a 4-hour mental breakdown. What's the most creepy thing you've ever witnessed? When I was about 12, I was sleeping on my trampoline with a friend and we heard the bushes move behind us and flashed our flashlight to the bushes, and a mountain lion was laying there stalking us. I have never ran so fast in my life. My brother after his overdose. Dude looked like a translucent bluish-red color, covered in his own puke. Jaw tensed shut. My dad and I thought he was dead, but we worked on him anyway. Pretty sure I chipped some of his teeth prying his mouth open. I cleared his airway. Me and my dad traded compressions until he sent me outside to flag down the ambulance. And that fucking goober survived. He's been sober from hard drugs for 7+ years. Sober from drinking for 5+. 2 beautiful daughters and a wife. When I was serving my time as an engineer in the Merchant Navy, we used to have to clean out what are called sea chests. They're basically big filters for seawater that we would pump in to use as coolant, and if the pumps were on when we were dockside, we'd find all sorts of things like bottles, fish, crabs, etc. One day we opened up the chest, pulled out the filter, and immediately saw this gold shiny thing which turned out to be a Rolex watch. Usually we'd just dump out the filter, but with the mitigating circumstances we went through it thoroughly and found a piece of a shirt with cufflink still attached, and last but not least a nicely rotted finger. The police ended up closing off the dock and dredging it, but never found anything on the end. Was working in a restaurant. Nice place. That night we held a charity dinner for a youth in need type of house. The guy representing the house, a worker there, was such a nice and kind man. Every teen there was only saying nice thing of him. A good soul. That was giving everything he could for these teens. At one point they gave a big check for the charity. I must guess an amount they rarely received. Well, under the excitement, that poor man had a cardiac arrest dropped there on the stage. Check in hand. He couldn't be brought back. He died. Seeing this was already bad enough, but the kids everywhere in the restaurant screaming and crying for hours after. Haunting. This guy followed me home. Said he saw me there often and named a few local spots I go to sometimes as places he sees me. I grew up somewhere very rural, no streetlights and far away from any town with them. At night it was dark. My bedroom door also never closed properly. You could latch it, but it would pop open if you pushed the door lightly. One night I woke up suddenly, without knowing why. As my mind tried to make sense of things, I looked to my left. Towards the bedroom door, I could see the outline of a figure. In the tiny amount of pre-dawn light, I could just see a white shape. Long dark hair hanging down and sunken eyes. I could also hear it breathing. After a few seconds of absolute mind-bending horror, where I literally felt every hair stand on end, it took a step into my room. Out of the dark hallway. The hallway had no windows, so my room was slightly lighter. The change of the light also changed the face slightly. I could see it more clearly. I saw that it was in fact my mother's face, and she was sleepwalking. She very occasionally did, and also had a lot of other sleep problems, including very vivid nightmares. She quickly left and went back to bed. Fortunately for my own sanity, I never saw her sleepwalk again. What are you currently obsessed with? Making pizza. Dough hydration percentages. Dough fermentation. Sauce recipes. Mozzarella cheese choices. The list of considerations is endless. I'm getting there. Getting a new job, skeptical smiley face. This idea bouncing around in my head to purchase some commercial property and build a video game lounge. What's looking like a coffee shop for gamers, in theory. Reddit. Since I made this account, I'm sure this obsession will wear off soon. Just like every other obsession in my life. Started binge watching The Boys as of late. Red Dead Redemption 2. If you had a magic notebook that anything you wrote in it became real, what would you draw? It will for sure have the cool S drawn along with everything else you guys said. I'd draw a second magic notebook and give it to you. Anything I draw would look like an H.P. Lovecraft eldritch horror created with the talents of a 6-year-old, so I hope the book doesn't expect accuracy. A duck with a nice hat. If anything I write in there becomes real, then I wouldn't draw anything. I would write yummy face. Subscribe, my brothers.